Hello, 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 everyone. Thank you so much for joining us today. For those who are new, we welcome you to our online book club called Reading River. How this work is every week we go live right here on YouTube to chat about a few chapters. No spoilers ahead, no pressure, just good books and great conversation. Whether you're a longtime reader or just getting started, you're welcome here. Now, this genre is for called Noire because we'll be covering books written from Black authors. Now, the book that we are talking about is God is a Black Woman from Dr. Christina Cleveland. We've hit chapter 1, 2, and now we are on chapter 3. I do want to go ahead and introduce our panel. So we got Sheen, we got Debbie, we got Toya, and we got me, Nene. And we start with chapter 3. Okay. So she starts by, we're talking about, the chapter's titled, She Who Guides Us Along the Freedom Path, right? And for what I'm collecting, and you guys can let me know, this starts off as like a dream, right? She says, I dreamed I stood at the edge of a wealthy suburban development. She goes into saying that just beyond this neighborhood stood an eyesore. So I'm assuming like you see this great development, and she says this terrifying, uncultivated, and tameable forest full of briars, vines, trees, and bushes. Now, she also says that this is within the dream, that within this knotty thicket there's a glimmering light. And though the light was barely visible, she was instantly enchanted. I'm assuming she's like seeing this thicket, and she goes into and she says, she says, what could be alive and full of light deep within this terrifying, pathless darkness, she wondered. So she says, just as she leans in, the forest sprang to life. Sprigs of lavender magically sprung up along the path, their soothing scent filling the air and beckoning her forward. She also talks about minty eucalyptus, zesty lemon trees, all this good stuff. So again, we can envision that she's, saw the thick forest, and now she's choosing the forest, and because she sees this light. Okay. She also says that within this dream, she wanted to take one last glance at all that I would leave behind if she ventured into this thicket, because I'm assuming that these are the two choices. And as she surveyed the neighborhood, another transformation occurred. Eyeing the roads, I noticed they all led to dead ends, and there was no way to drive out of the neighborhood. She says, as I scrutinized the neighborhood, I noticed the robotic phoniness of the neighbors' obligatory hand waves as they fearfully installed their top-of-the-line home security systems. She commences to say that as my gaze continued over the increasingly sad suburbia, several Confederate-like monuments of white male God erupted from the ground, destroying the tiny cement pavement. And as the monuments continued to rise, blocking the sun and casting a gloomy pall over what has formerly seemed like the tony optimistic and safe enclave. So I'm assuming that, and you guys can let me know, it sounds like in this dream, she's choosing the thicket, she sees the suburbia, but the suburbia is not all what it seems. I'm assuming it's like one of them horror films where it's fake people waving, House of Wax kind of thing going on. I don't know if you guys seen that. But she's choosing the thicket because she sees a light, and as she's going through this thicket, it's becoming more beautiful, like there's a nice little kingdom or whatever in the end. She moves on to talk about her defending the sacred black feminine, right? She talks about how she had plenty of opportunities to argue the legitimacy of the sacred black feminine. She says, as people in my spiritual and academic circles caught wind of my public musings about God's race and gender, my inbox was filled with questions and accusations. Okay, so now we're starting to get into it, right? So we're moving from the dream. She wakes up from the dream, and now she goes into more about the sacred black feminine. And she says, and quote, and I'm assuming these are the people who are basically arguing about the legitimacy of the sacred black feminine. And she says, how can you claim that God is female when Jesus is obviously male? But how do you know that God is a black woman? Prove it. Are you a witch? And this is the part I want us to put a pin in and we come back to. She says, in response to these questions, I spent a ridiculous amount of time justifying my beliefs and framing them through the lens of traditional Christianity. Okay, let's put a pin there. I'm going to come back at the end because I don't know if we've been feeling like I've been feeling, but and then she goes into, and then I'm on page 41. She says she also dwells in the feminine realm of intuition, talking about the sacred black feminine. She dwells in the feminine realm of intuition, possibility, and mysticism. Before I keep going on in the book, I didn't know if anybody had anything to say or anything that I may have missed that you guys wanted to kind of hone in on before I keep going on in the chapter.
I don't know, like the dream that she's harping on is from, she stated that it's from 2017. To me, she announced, she presents it as a dream, but when you read about it more, it's really a nightmare. Also, like, this is her kind of still introducing her, I think, her beginnings into her journey of, discovering the Black Madonna and kind of like still on this journey of proving of that the Black Madonna is, real and is really, she's the, real God. But I don't know what it doesn't bring us any closer to true exploration on how she got onto this path other than, she had a nightmare.
Yeah, I agree.
Yes.
I mean, like, I wish I could dig deeper or try to go as deep.
Right.
To me, that whole description of her dream is just that of a dream or a nightmare.
Yeah. So many things to say.
Say it, please.
No, because I'm gonna, because this I've been battling since chapter 2. I've been fighting sword, shield, baby, full armor, like I'm Russell Crowe in Gladiator, baby. Like I've been, and I'm gonna walk through it. I promise, because I had to even write some notes down. I had to reach out to family because I was like, man, I don't know, player. I don't know, dog. But I promise I'm gonna try to connect the dots in the end. But I'm gonna let y'all talk because I don't want to. It's a lot I gotta say, and
It was just like when I first started reading it, I paused and I'm like, especially when she reveals this was just a dream. So as I was reading it, I'm thinking this got to be a metaphor because there's no way. And that part of the at the end of what is it, the complex or the community she was in, that's all her confusion to me on her journey as to where she is now or trying to get to. And she's trying to choose between the two. And it's, we've already said, it's just like,
Also, I think that, while reading that and based on what you were saying, it's kind of like, it's not so much your exploration for the Black Madonna as it is you're still trying to figure you out. She's still confused about who she is as a person.
Right.
Yeah.
which maybe sometimes confuses me when I'm reading some of this stuff. So I don't know. I mean, I'll be honest. Yeah, chapter 3 was kind of hard to get through. So we'll continue on.
Okay. Yeah, so I'm on page 42, and she brings up, so it sounds like we're kind of moving along, right? So we're at this metaphorical dream that we see glimpse of later that, seems to be coming to life in some instances, right? And then we move towards her talking about like the sacred black feminine force of intuition, possibility, and mysticism. And again, I'm on page 42, and she says, for example, and she brings this, thought it was a lovely example. She says, for example, during the period of colonial enslavement, many black women held hush harbor meetings, secret, illegal, after dark gatherings during which they harvested the most life giving elements of Christianity and combined them with ancestral African religious practices and avant garde spirituality. Not willing to be confined to the barren and anti-black world of the plantation's church's white Christ, the black women of the hush harbors moved beyond the world of tradition, reason, and consensus and created their own magical spiritual world that affirmed their black female embodied souls and offered them the hope they needed. Rather than allowing the white patriarchal establishment to dictate what is true, they relied on their own embodied wisdom. And then she goes into the innovation and the courage tradition of hush harbors continues today in lives of the womanists. So y'all, let's put a pin here. The womanists, the collective of black feminist scholars. And she introduces a few of them, right? She says that they prioritize the black woman's lived experiences above all sources of knowledge. She says the womanists don't care what white male God and his minions think, and they don't need to prove that their beliefs are in accordance with tradition. She moves on to say that basically these women are one who is unequivocally pro-black and pro-woman. Okay, so let's put a pin there, come back. Okay. According to anthropologist Linda Thomas, a womanism is all about believing that black women are sacred and that and that their lived experiences are the most important sources of information as they determine what is true, what is valuable, what is hurtful, and what is healing. Womanists asks, what nurtures hope in black women? What is life given to black women? What heals black women and what liberates black women? And as she goes into about the wake of her harrowing dream, she says, I devoured dozens. So now it sounds like you said in the beginning, Sheen, she's still on this journey. She's trying to obtain more information. She's still walking her path, right? And she says that in the wake of this harrowing dream, I devoured dozens of books on womanist psychology. Philosophy, literature, and theology. Kelly Brown's Douglas, The Black Christ, exposes the ghastly white supremacist cracks in traditional interpretations of Christian scripture and set me free to walk away from the white male God monument of Christian tradition. Jacqueline Grant's White Woman's Christ and Black Woman's Jesus was one big not today colonizer retort to white feminism that liberated me from trying to reconcile my experiences of the Black Madonna with white women's interpretations of her. But it was Monica Coleman's making a way out of no way that sent me lumbering into this magical, sacred black feminine forest. All right, let's put a pin in that. We'll come back to it. There's a lot of pins. I get it. We're getting poked a lot. I get it. Okay, so she talks about the womanist in her because she wants to be a womanist. Okay, She talks about how she continued on the spiritual path toward the sacred black feminine. Oh, I'm sorry. Before I go on, did anybody want to talk? Anybody wanted to have anything to say before I move on? I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. Kind of just skating through this.
Skate on, friend. Skate on.
Yeah, I'm gonna put them paddles. I'm gonna put them paddles on it.
Skate on, friend.
I'm gonna put them paddles on it. I'm gonna put them paddles on it. So we move on to where she talks about she who guides us beyond fear and into love. Okay. She talks about how no longer willing to be confined to white male gods' monuments of tradition and orthodoxy, I shook my mom's words out of my body and immediately registered for a mindfulness class. Mindfulness, which means maintaining a moment by moment awareness of our thoughts, feelings, bodily sensations, and surrounding environment through a gentle, nurturing lens, enabled me to feel the terror that I have been numbing since I was 5. Okay, so if I'm hearing everything correctly, it sounds like in order for her, I hate to use the term channel, but I guess to be more in alignment with this sacred black feminine, it sounds like she's talking more about meditation. Mindfulness class, she's sitting, she's meditating, she's, trying to channel this divine femininity of this black sacred feminine. Right. And through this, she says her friend shared a Buddhist teaching they say this friend named Judith, one day in class, Judith shared the Buddhist teaching that love and fear form the basis of everything. So this kind of goes back to what she's saying. The nurturing lens enabled me to start to feel the terror that I have been numbing since I was 5, right? So now she goes into talking about the love and fear. She talks about this Buddhist class teaching, and she says about 2 months into the class, Judith invites the students to a day-long mindfulness retreat. So now this is going to be a retreat, more meditation for about 45 minutes a day. Wow, that's a lot. So an entire day of mindful silence intimidated her, but she went away because she was curious. And at the end of the day, Judith invited us to try something different. She says, for this last period of meditation, she said, instead of trying to clear your mind of your thoughts, feel free to welcome your thoughts. Just notice what happens when you open the floodgates. And it sounds like in this moment of this meditation where she opens the floodgates, she says, I closed my eyes and turned inward. A wave of love crashed into me. A wave so formidable that it forced my upright body backward and into the floor pillows behind me. The overwhelmingly powerful force was distinctively pleasurable, but it had been any stronger, it would have made me physically painful. It would have been physically painful. This was a mighty force that didn't abuse. It was a force without manipulation, force without control, and force without shame. It was the force of love, a force I had never encountered in white male God's world. I guess, so when I put a pin, no, I don't think I need to put a pin in this, but I may come back to it. But I think, and you guys can jump in and let me know. So when I heard this, I was like, man, I want some force of love, but that sounded kind of abusive. I don't know, that sounded like a lot to me. And that would be overwhelming for anyone. I didn't know if anyone wanted to touch on before I moved on that.
I don't know. To me, it just sounded like it was the equivalency of somebody catching the Holy Ghost.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
That makes sense. I've never caught the Holy Ghost. Have any of y'all ever caught the Holy Ghost?
No.
No.
Oh, okay. I'm going to have to ask. I don't know. So she moves on to talk about she who guides us into the new waves of being. Okay, so now she's meditating, she's in this journey, but I think she's, how do I put this? She's in the journey. She's still going through the journey, but it sounds like she's more confident in this exploration, right? She's not trying to prove it to anyone. She's walking the walk as she's trying to learn more. She talks about the combination of contemplative walking, mindfulness meditation, and the academic research created an explosion of magical encounters with the sacred black feminine. Okay. And then now she talks about not long after I began my pilgrimage in France, this is where it sounds like this dream, this metaphorical dream, starts to kind of ring a bell now, right? So after this pilgrimage in France, she talks about that she was in a small city, 65 miles. When she finally enters, and I'm on page 48, but when she finally enters the expansive Moulins Cathedral, I encountered even more statues and monuments, scores of them. I've never seen so many in one place before, and I was reminded of the white male god monuments in my dream. And then this is where she kind of goes back, and she says, though one could easily get lost among many statues and monuments, it's possible to miss the Black Madonna of the Moulins. Hope I'm saying that right. A sight to behold. She boldly stands out among the white male saints and the white Madonnas. And then after she compares them to the other statues and monuments within this cathedral, she says, though she's over 1,000 years old, there's nothing fragile about her. And she even gives an example, because now she's moving into the examples. She talks about, it's no surprise that the Black Madonna of Moulins is a fierce divine creature. She is the Black Madonna to which Joan of Arc prayed in 1429 before she began her freedom fight for the lives and dignity of peasants and other oppressed people. I, for one, did not know that. And I also didn't know Joan of Arc was 14. But she's also talking about how she's supported by this, and her being the Black Madonna, is supported by this massive altar. And then she goes on into using this Joan of Arc example as that Joan of Arc carried these fears and questions because she was human, and a white male god was just as active in the 1400s as he is today. Before I move on, did anyone want to say anything or just keep it moving?
I have nothing, so.
Cool. This may be the shortest meeting ever. I know.
I don't think so, because we're all waiting for the end. I think everybody might have like a little something to say.
Listen, yeah, okay, but listen, okay, so I'm on page 49, and she says, just as the white slaveholders didn't want the enslaved African people to see themselves in Christ, the liberator, white male God doesn't want us to encounter ourselves in the divine. He knows he can no longer gaslight us if we understand that we are sacred too. And he knows that when we embrace our right to be free, we will begin to trust our perceptions, including our senses, that the system is jacked up. And so then she goes into the quote of Joan of Arc, right? And so she says the famous quote of Joan of Arc is that I'm not afraid, I was born for this. And then she breaks down how that it was inaccurate to kind of give more of a tie to the Black Madonna that she was praying to. And she says that I later learned that the quote was inaccurate. It had been truncated and spiritualized in order to appeal to a wider audience. What Joan of Arc actually said was, I do not fear the soldiers, for my road is made open to me, and if the soldiers come, I have God my Lord, who will know how to clear the route. It was for this that I was born. So really, a more authentic summary of Joan of Arc's words is, I'm not afraid because God is with me. I was born for this. So as she's giving the Joan of Arc example, man, we almost done. So as she's giving the Joan of Arc example, she also talks about Harriet Tubman, right? She goes into, and she starts off, and I'm on page 52, but is she black though? And she says, I like my heroes as I like my identities, intersectional. Though I appreciate the story, Joan of Arc's encounter with the Black Madonna of Moulins didn't quite do it for me. I get that she's a feminist icon, but I rarely encounter the stories of heroic white women because they don't relate to my intersectional identity as a black woman. And then she goes into, and if white feminism has taught us anything, it's that the white women's heroism often hurts black women because white women benefit so much from white male gods' anti-blackness. She but she goes into the Harriet Tubman example where she talks about, and again, I'm still on page 52, with this prompt, it didn't take long for Harriet Tubman to blossom in my spiritual imagination. For I was certain that if Harriet Tubman had prayed before the Madonna statue, it would have been the magnificently fierce Black Madonna of Moulins. Harriet's story offers a quintessential example of how the sacred black feminine mothered, liberated, encouraged, emboldened, and accompanied and sustained her as she helped hundreds of people escape plantations. And so now she's talking about following the North Star. As we come to the end, she uses that metaphor to basically say that, and I'm on page 53, and I'm quoting, the North Star, like the Black Madonnas of Moulins, often an image of the divine that related to their blackness and to their fight for liberation. And the North Star reminded them, despite what white patriarchy had called them, Jezebel, uppity, unholy, stupid, that they were sacred, and their mission was to. She guided them as they escaped to freedom. And in the last line of the chapter, she relates this to her own journey. And she said, and actually it sounds like she relates this to a plantation, like Harriet Tubman was on a plantation. And she says, at the time, I had no idea how much I needed to meet my North Star in Moulins that day, for as I would soon learn, I needed to keep my eye on her as I continued on the freedom path. I needed to keep my eye on her as I began to plan my escapes from the many white male god plantations that still littered my life. I needed to keep my eyes on her when I heard the gunshots and the dog barking. When I feared for my life and when my fear threatened to overtake me and send me back into white male gods' inhospitable arms. When I felt compelled to return to the loved ones I left behind, I needed to keep my eyes on the North Star and allow her to continue to guide me to freedom. And that wraps up chapter 3. See, let me.
If nothing else, I definitely want to know more of like how she grew up, her childhood, something to understand. Like.
So
I just, maybe
where do
something.
we come from? Yeah, invoking the North Star. Yes.
Like, she's definitely giving different experience or these flashbacks, but it's like, I don't know, after reading, this chapter was like, I want, like, what was your growing up in your, like, just more of that to better understand or something.
Exactly, because when she talked about, because the narrow God, and it's when she's talking about shrinking herself to be accepted,
right?
Like literally, again, this goes. I immediately, girl, what did your parents instill in you?
Right,
because
what was your starting point?
Right.
Seriously, because I know most black households instill in their children, when you walk in the room, you own it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And she does not feel like this. And she's continued, her parents again continue to put her in settings to where there was self-doubt, where she felt like she had to shrink herself. This woman is a doctor. She has her doctorate.
Mm-hmm.
She's teaching at Duke University.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
She's speaking at prestigious colleges and universities, but yet and still she feels the need to shrink herself in order to be accepted. So that again, she is what, in the image of the white God that she's been raised to worship. I don't understand it. And then even when her mom is talking about, when she was talking about this is when she started doing, what is it, the yoga,
Mm-hmm.
the meditations,
Right.
and her mom made the comment. She was like, the way her mom thinks is what did she say?
She said,
yeah.
I forgot, it's the hippies, the 90s hippies or something, she said.
Yeah. I was speechless.
No, yoga and meditation is for people that they use it because they feel like they can't get closer to God.
Yes,
Yeah.
she said.
Yes.
Yeah.
I was literally speechless. So again, we're going on. We know at some point this is why she is on this journey, and it is deeply rooted from her upbringing. It has to be, and I really wish she would expound more on that, and I hope that's coming. I don't know. I haven't gotten to it yet, but I just don't see that she's revealing that.
I want to see her kind of break down how, you know, she can say, you know, or even harp on what you were just saying a little bit, Debbie, about her parents placing her in these positions when she was younger, maybe trying to find out how she came to this point in her life to now go through this exploration, but also when does, you know, she has to take on the responsibility as well too of placing herself in these positions. Pointing back to what you were saying, she teaches at Duke University, their Trinity School. She also stated, you know, before that, when she was going through the description of the dream, she was saying that she was going to a mega church to go speak at a mega church in a couple of days.
Yeah.
All right. So right there, you have a problem with the white male God and all of the white male God's teachings and everything, but you don't have a problem with putting yourself in a place that believes in laws
true.
to worship this same, you know, white male God that you are so opposed to. To me, that, you know, can you please make that correlation, or are you specifically inhabiting these areas or these places so that you can teach your learnings about the Black Madonna? Because which one is it? We still don't know right now.
Yeah. I have been rattling my brain since chapter 2. And then I get through chapter 3. And I'm like, man, what? What am I going through? Right? And to the point where I had to reach out about this, right? I'm reading chapter 3 and I'm like, Lord, you know, like why am I so like severely impatient with this book? I don't even know a better way to say it. Why am I so impatient? I feel like you're giving me sprinkles of things, and I'm like, Dr. Chris, break the levee on me. Let's go.
Right.
Like I need to know origin. I need to know, you know, what made, you know, the principles. I need to know, like, you know. And I'm looking down at the page when I'm reading the book, and it's like the end page. I'm on like page 50. The end page is like 183. I'm like, man, like I'm hanging on. I'm hanging in there. Like, what's the deal? So I literally had to reach out to my folks, and I was like talking to my mom or whatever, and even my uncle, Toya, you know the one. And I was like, and I was just telling my mom, I was like, man, you know, I don't even know what I'm even saying about this chapter 3, because I mean, I don't know. I mean, and so she was like, well, you know, ask your uncle because he asked good questions and maybe it may spark something, right? And so I did, and my uncle was like, man, he was like, listen, first of all, this woman is talking about her journey, right? And in this journey, everything, and I was like, man, you know, the first chapter was, you know, we getting into it, we rolling. The second chapter, I'm like looking for something. I'm like, I'm not getting to it. Like, what's going on? And he's like, man, you know, listen, first of all, it's a woman's journey, right? Everything is not going to be sexy. Everything is not going to be, you know, adrenaline packed. It's not going to be
for sexy.
Right. Everything.
Sexy.
Right. And everything.
Anybody asked Dr. Christina to get sexy?
Right. So and in addition, so I'm like, well, yeah, that's true. And no, you're right. Ain't nobody asked her to get sexy about no chapters or whatever. And ain't nobody asked all of that. But I get it. And then he started asking, he was like, well, if you were writing a book, like, what did you expect by this chapter? And I'm like, man, I don't know. But I had to keep thinking about, like, what is my angst about what's going on right now? Like, why am I so impatient right now? Why am I just trying to get through this part? Like, what am I looking at? What am I waiting on? And I think I had to think back for a minute, and y'all can let me know what you think, because this is a long one, right? Because I promise I'm going to try to make this long story short. But I think the first part of my angst with this book, right, is that I had to think about back in the day, like how I was like indoctrinated to religion or spirituality, right? And when I was a kid or whatever, your parents or your loved ones or your relatives, they either brought you to church or if you were introduced to anything spiritual or religious later, you know, it was like a format to it, right? And I'm not trying to minimize religion or anything like that. So please take it with a grain of salt. But if my memory serves me correct and I'm talking about just religion and or spirituality, or if you conflate the two, just in general, it seems like there's like a rhyme and reason to it, right? So, like in the beginning, right, you have like this sales pitch, and I don't mean to call it a sales pitch, but something that's going to make you more interested, right? And either this is like your family or someone close to you who brings you in, and they're like, you know, Jesus loves you, you're loved, and you're like, oh, I want to be loved, and so, you know, you keep going, and then like the next thing is some documentation, right? Somebody gives you either like a little Bible, they tell you a nice little story, or if Jehovah Witness, they give you magazines or something of what, but you have a little documentation, a literature, you know, small program or two from a church. And then they talk about their community. Hey, this is the community. If you ever want to stop by, this, that, and the other, you know, from Jehovah Witness to Hebrew Israelites to Judaism to Catholics, same similar format, right? And then when you go to this community, you have this big book, right? The big book, even no matter if it's translated into different versions, King James, African Heritage Bible. I got an African Heritage Bible, right? New International version of it, but there's this big book, right? The book of principles, the book of rules, the book of instructions, stories, examples. And then if you like everything, you stay with it, right? You become part of this community, you adhere to some of these instructions, you try to apply this to your basic principles, and some of us may have to realign our moral compass. Some of us, you know, our compass doesn't have to be realigned, and that's why we like this religion in the first place, right? And that's what attracted us with this religion. And so I'm thinking, I'm like, so what is my deal with this book? And the thing about it is that's not what's rolled out to me. It wasn't rolled out. I didn't get origin. I didn't get more depth information. But then remember when we were in like chapter 2, right? And me and Toya were like, put a pin in this. I feel like we got to put a lot of pins in a lot of things. I feel like Dr. Chris she's given us these Easter eggs within these chapters. So I had to go back and I was like, what? Because I feel like she's given us these Easter eggs. And what I mean by that is that when I go back and I think about the indoctrination of prior religions, right? I'm like, so if we go down this list, how does she follow this list, right? And I would say like, okay, so if I say the first thing was the sales pitch, right? In these terms, I would say that like her pitch was like chapter 1, chapter 2, and chapter 3, right? Talking about, she starts off with the white male God. She's talking about the voyage. The title of the book alone, God is a black woman. I mean, that's just like, what? I need to know more about that. And then the documentation, right? So the documentation, what would be the handout that she gives? And I would consider this book. Now, I haven't finished it, but I would consider this book being the documentation that you would give to pass on to, you know, learn a little bit more to know if you want to come through the door or not, right? And so then we move on, right? And again, these are little Easter eggs, right? Through chapter 1 and 2, right? Number 3, like if we're talking about the community, you know, she even brings up, and I want to say this maybe in chapter 2, about where is the community for women who feel like this. So what does she bring in chapter 3? The womanist, right? She talks about these womanists, pro-black, pro-women, right? And then when we're looking at like, what is the big book, right? What is the principles of this big book? Then she starts breaking down the womanist philosophy, right? She talks about the Kelly Brown Douglas, the Black Christ. She talks about the Jacqueline Grant's White Women's Christ and Black Women Jesus. She talks about Monica Coleman. You know, so now we actually, you know, I don't know if she's going to get more into it because she's been quoting these women a lot. I hope she does, but she's now giving us these principles to the point where, so she even talks about, and I'm wrap this up. I'm gonna wrap it all this up, right? She even talks about how, and going back to what's that page? That page 40, right? She says in the beginning, when I was like, put a pin in it, she says, you know, I spent a ridiculous amount of time justifying my beliefs and framing them through the lens of traditional Christianity. To me, as I'm picking these Easter eggs up, and I could just be reaching for what I'm about to say next, but to me, it's almost like this rollout that I thought that I was going to get from the book, maybe still, but just not yet, that this is not how she's trying to introduce this at all, right? I keep feeling like she's saying, comparing this through the lens of Christianity is comparing apples to oranges. So she's not going to even try to do that. So it sounds like we're getting these Easter eggs, right? So I say all that to say, well, like, okay, so what's the problem, right? Like, so what's my angst with everything? And y'all can let me know before I get into anything else, because I got some more to add on to it. Did y'all have anything to say or any questions about anything?
No, but I did. The way you said it was kind of more like what I felt or said to myself after reading and listening. Also to the 3rd chapter was I wasn't gonna be anxious or just have these expectations of what I thought from the 1st or the 2nd chapter. This to how she's gonna play it out. So I definitely, you know, it's funny. I kept saying to myself like throughout the 3rd chapter of like. Because I was listening to it the last time, like, let me just listen to it then. Let me do the audio and try to listen to chapter 3. And I just kept saying, we listen and we don't judge. I swear I feel like I kept saying it to myself, listening to the 3rd chapter, that it was like, okay, and really, and what you just said made me think of when you said about parents of like, okay, she truly just, again, that reminder of this is her journey. Don't have no more expectations. How she's going to give it is just maybe however this character, like, if this was a real, like person going through this and going through, and when you just said what you said, Denny, about how maybe your faith, your beliefs, or whatever your first religion or whatever introduction is through your parents or whoever you raised by, implementing that or embedding that into you, that it made me pause for a second and being like, that's true, because even now I think of the different, when I lived in Atlanta, the different what we were, right. accustomed to. We weren't, Baptist then at some point, but we were, and then went back to being Baptist, or along my journey after being up under my parents, of learning that some of what I taught, like I may not believe, anymore. Right. I found my own, relationship with God to be this, that is like, okay, maybe this is how, if I look at it now this way of how she's giving it, then I won't have these expectations of like, what in the world, what this? Because when she did have the Harriet Tubman, I was like, now, like, what in the world? Like, whoa. And I definitely was like, Harriet, like, I always wanted to play her, read her, do her stuff. It was still in that moment of like, but I again was like, we listen, we don't judge, is what I'm saying to myself. And I was like, this is just her journey, and just get rid of the expectations or what I think are going to be, and this is this character's journey. So yeah, I definitely feel you.
I don't know, man. When she was relating herself, like trying to relate her journey to Harriet Tubman, all I could think of was just, the Soldier Boy meme, where like he's like, shoot, I had about 5. He's like describing some kind of shootout, and he's like, it's like 5 jokers ran up on me, and I was like, blah, 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 like the exaggeration of it all. Is a bit much, but
right.
But
I think
also,
go ahead. No, go ahead.
It's also, as I was just looking at this, if we're looking at this whole book, and we really want to take it with the seriousness that is supposed to be taken with. All right, you look at the title of the chapter: "She who guides us along the freedom path."
Right.
Like she has like sub chapters within it,
right?
But within the actual chapter itself, how do you go from that to Black women just be knowing, and then
I'm sorry.
Know what I'm saying? Like, and then we jump back to the woman is.
Okay.
But on that though, maybe it was. I think it was just trying to vary to where she went from one extreme to the other, but still about the intuition and how we just know things and can sense and feel things.
No, man, that's what I'm talking about. This say it again.
I'm laughing at y'all. I'm sorry.
It's the extreme, right? Okay, so once again, how do we go from she who guides us beyond fear and into love, and then we go from that into what was it like a couple of sub chapters later? Yeah. But is she Black though? Huh? What? God, you're all over the place. And then we find
she was there,
the North Star.
I think that little, is she Black though, maybe with a, like a little snorky kind of sarcastic, rhetorical, like, maybe not true. I don't know. I feel like you just, I don't know. We gonna know when we know with this book.
My whole point is like chapter 3 was just all over the place.
Yeah. Where I lost expectation in this book, and I'll just keep reading it, is when she made this statement of, I had to leave the God who I look nothing alike, basically, to find the God who lived within me.
You know what, she did say that.
I at that point I was like, okay, really? Again,
yeah,
it's misconstrued there. What are you trying to say, Dr. Chris? The God that lived within you?
Right.
Aren't you're seeking that, right? And then, because again, we're still going on the image, the whole image. Right. This is the whole thing to me. We're talking about the image. And your image is the white male God.
Right.
So, I don't know. I've lost expectation, and I'll just keep reading and see what happens.
Right.
Black folks
I
be
think that we're
knowing.
all just craving like a little bit more background. Like,
Yeah.
Exactly.
first,
Yeah. Yeah.
because now all the theologically, thinking about this, and then also, for such an important religious conversation that she's trying to bring to light,
True.
I hate when I read the terms magical,
Mm.
and
Right.
all these it kind of cheapens. To me,
Exactly.
magical is that should not be used when talking about religion.
Mm-hmm.
But then she gets upset when somebody asks her, "Is she a witch?"
Yeah, you know what I'm saying? Like, guys, I mean, you got to separate it. So, I don't know. I was kind of going, chapter 2 to me was more, as we were discussing it more last week, it started to make more sense to me. Chapter 3, nah, you lost me for it.
Right.
Yeah.
I'm thinking
Yeah.
about chapter 4 because, yeah, this was just, it was a bit, I don't
Big
know.
pen
I
in
don't want to say,
A big pen. Yeah.
yeah, but it was just,
it.
a
Right.
bit dramatic.
Right.
I don't think, I mean, who am I to say I can only talk about myself? Just like she can only talk for her experience.
True.
But I would feel, if I try to compare, my day at work or my day or my life period to one of a Harriet Tubman,
Mm-hmm.
talking about the dogs are barking. I'm running from the barking dog. No, you're not a barking dog. What barking dogs you ran from? You know what I'm saying? Like, for real. That's nothing,
Well, she was running from the cops with the,
Yeah, in the first chapter,
Right.
I had to read it again. Like, did I miss something? Like, what? When are we
I'm
back
just
there?
kidding.
Are we still
I'm
running?
just kidding. I'm just kidding.
Yeah, woman, you know what I'm saying? But like, it's serious.
I'm just
Like
kidding.
we need to look at Harriet Tubman's, whole, her life.
Yeah.
I mean,
Right.
getting a brick
Right.
thrown at your head. She had a permanent dent in her head due to that.
Right.
The amount of times that she put her own personal life in danger
Right.
to save somebody else's, and I mean real danger.
Real danger.
Right.
Death, in a painful death. No telling what they would have did to her.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? So to, who of us has that kind of experience? Are we gonna find out Dr. Chris put her life on line for hundreds of people? We don't know yet. We're only on chapter 3, but as it states right now, no. You know what I'm saying?
I agree.
Yeah,
I agree with you.
it's kind of like, this one it's getting a little dramatic.
Yeah, I understand. Yeah, I understand. And I'm hoping that she. I'm sorry, Sheen. Go ahead.
Oh, no. I'm you know what I'm saying? I guess it's just for me, it's kind of like she sound, like basically, it based off of chapter 3, what do you call it? Televangelist.
Yeah.
Trying to really sell you, you know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
On something with dramatics or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And she even talks in the chapter, man, she's about to go to a mega church.
Mm.
Y'all know the mega churches, man. Those are, come on.
Yeah.
True.
Yeah. I just got finished watching the Gemstones. It's a whole theatrical experience. It's like wrestling almost. They got drama and this and that, and yeah, it's a lot going on. Was so interesting, right? I was thinking back, like why we chose this book in the first place, right?
Mm-hmm.
And because I was like thinking about being the indoctrination, and I was thinking about how this is going so far, and I was and I was feeling a lot like you ladies, which I'm comforted because I wasn't on the ledge out by myself, right? And And I was like, man, I don't even know how I'm even break it down, because I'm just like, I felt like I needed more. And to be honest, and this is just me, how do I put this? Like, I remember that this book kind of just like fell in my lap through like probably like a TikTok algorithm. And then there was and hopefully I can link the TikTok that this kind of also inspired like a little bit later, because once I saw the book I was like, oh man, that's a great title, like wow. And then there was like a TikTok that I think Kirk Franklin, I think he was on a Shannon Sharp or something, and they would like clip the part because it was a stitch to the book, and then other things besides that. But long story short, they were talking about women, especially black women, and how sometimes some religions can weaponize black women in marriage, or making decisions that they may suffer from because they're trying to hang in with this religion. You know, for example, you know, you go to the preacher, pastor, or whatever, or to your priest, and you're like, my husband's doing this, he's doing that, he's hitting me, he's beating me, he's doing these things. And they're like, well, you know, men are weak, and, you know, just pray for him. And, you know, years later you see like the movie of The War Room, where, I don't know if you guys watched it, but it was basically a room, you know, the lady goes in, she prays, and she just has to, that's her mustering strength to get through it. And so I thought it was interesting, you know, for black women, because it's true, we do see mostly us serving as servitude in a lot of religions. Right. And when I picked this book, you know, I was like, man, you know, maybe we're going to get more into it, maybe we're going to talk more about it. I was like, we had, and it sounds like we hadn't got to that part yet. So I'm hoping that, you know, we get to that part. But the one thing that I do have to be honest with myself about when picking this book was that this book was chosen after the election. And I'm not going to get political or anything like that, but, you know, we won't go there. But, you know, I was kind of feeling a way about some things. And lately, you know, I've been how do I put this? It's been something that's been kind of on my spirit for a minute, right? Now, yeah, and what I mean is that because I remember I sent this to Debbie, and Debbie was like, say less about the book, let's go. And I think what I was searching for, because I want to be honest with my expectations, because, you know, I do appreciate, you know, all the ladies, you know, all of you saying, you know, I'm just going to just gauge my expectations, because I think I'm going to have to too. And the reason I say that is because when I picked this book, like I said, it was after the election. And, you know, I bring that up to say that what's been kind of been on my spirit lately, I don't know if it's just me, but, you know, before election, before administration, and first of all, black women always been under attack. And I'm like, well, where are we going with this, right? Black women always been under attack. But lately, it's just been really, really heavy. And I don't mean just under certain administrations or anything, but I mean, like, I've been seeing it for, like, a minute. For example, if I had to bring, how do I put it? I remember, and this was, like I said, before administration, but it's almost like we were like the poster child for a lot of targets. And what I mean by that is that, like, for example, when I would see, I remember like when people were like pro-Palestinian, and we won't get into that, but the point is I remember I was seeing a lot of colleges, a lot of college students protesting. I remember the first thing that that they took to media, or took it brought up or went after, like headhunted, was like the Harvard president. Like, all the colleges were protesting, and then they tried to have like the first black Harvard principal on her head on the platter because of protest, and then they brought up plagiarism to the point where she resigns. And then, you know, like I'm seeing on the news, like Fonnie Willis, and she's on trial, and I'm like, dang, and I'm listening to, and again, I may just have to stay off media, but then I'm listening to us, being like the poster childs of affirmative action and DEI, even though we just get crumbs from it all. And so when I was picking this book, I was like, well, what does this got to do with the book? What does this got to do? What this got to do with the book or whatever. Even as this is going on, so this is like 2024, before the election. After the election happens, then we're seeing a lot of layoffs. And I know that you guys have been seeing, like most of the layoffs have been with like federal government work and all that other stuff. And I know you may have seen like the recent black women have been, a lot of those women have been laid off. Now, I'm certain that a lot of us are going to find other jobs, but it's been really hard out there. And I guess so what does this have to do with the book? Why? How did all this come to be? And again, trying to be honest with myself about it. I don't know. With all this going on, I feel like a lot of things are going to get rocky for us, right? And I was hoping, and again, I'm just kind of gauge my expectations and keep it moving a little bit with that, because I've been noticing, like a lot of, like I think that there's going to be rocky days ahead with a lot of things that's going on. There's going to be more layoffs. And I think, and everyone's getting laid off. It's not just black women. It's not just a black thing. But I think what's going to happen, what's happening is that, how do I put this? How does Dr. Claude say it? When some people get the cold, black people get pneumonia. And I just think that there's going to be a lot of rocky times ahead.
Yes.
And so what does this have to do with the book? I guess because, me knowing so many black women and me, being a black woman and watching black women, I know that, we're going to make it out of anything because it's who we are. I know,
right.
And we've been killing it as far as, which is why there's been laws and regulations put forth to either stop us or to slow us down at this point. Because, when you give us crumbs, we make a meal. When you give us 15 cents, we make $1 out of it. You see the top, all the, the most black women got the most degrees, most educated, most business growing. And with these things happening, it just makes me a little worried. And so what does this have to do? I'm going to tie it all together. What does this have to do with the book, right? Okay. I know that how do I put this? Because I feel like, I just know that black women are incredible, right? And I know that, as I'm not trying to put us above or pestilize us above other people or anything like that, but I just know for us, when things get bad like COVID, things get swept under the rug. And like black women, for example, we're pretty incredible. Like, our sense of, intention, intuition, our senses, we're like at a whole different level of like, on a different wavelength. And I just want us, and I think that the reason, again, why I picked this book is because, like, I just want us to, I guess to being honest, I just wanted us to have a little bit more validation of how great we are to weather this storm that's coming. And when I saw the title, when I saw the title, God as a Black Woman, I'm like, not to brag or anything, because again, I'm a black woman, but I'm like, with all that we go through and how we still try to rise like phoenixes, I'm like, if we aren't gods, we're the closest to it. And so,
okay.
I guess I'm saying all that to say is that, I did understand where Dr. Chris was yearning, right? Because like, in my mind, it's like she's yearning to be deprogrammed from this white male God. And in my mind, as I'm seeing things go on, and so much of a way of saying, I'm yearning for black women to like realize like we're the guys that we're searching for. And I'm hoping that with this extra, this validation, or what we may learn in this book, or what we may, I don't know, go through, or how we rise to the occasion, that this extra like validation as armor to like weather the rocky storms ahead. So, and I don't mean like God's like you have to pray to us or anything like that. I mean like the qualities that we may have to channel to get through a lot of the rocky things that may happen in the future. That's what I mean, you know. So I think that. Yeah, so I think that's my long way of saying that's kind of like my confession as far as getting, you know, reading the book or choosing this book, and you know, and that's kind of where I'm coming from on that. Just to put it on the table.
Makes sense.
I totally relate to that, because when you sent the title over, I jumped, like you said, I jumped on it. And I jumped on it simply because of the title.
Right.
Yes, we are. What we have endured as Black women, yes, of course. God is Black. And she's a woman. We all know that. And I have to, and I'm continuously reminding myself, because once I started reading, I'm like, okay, this is her journey. This is her journey. And I have to continue to bring myself back to that, because outside of continuing to state that, she's losing me.
Yeah.
And it's simply based off of the expectations that I had from reading the title. I think I was going into it with her speaking about all of the accomplishments and everything that we have endured as Black women. And that's not what we're getting. It's her journey. And her journey clearly is totally different from ours. Of course, everybody's journey is not the same.
Right.
But hers is totally different. Because, again, I'm stuck on your parents put you in these settings, and you stayed in these settings, but now that you're there, you're yearning and you're reaching out and you're looking for and to the image that of you. Not of God, but of you. Something that looks like you. And that's what you're looking for, because you've always been told he's white. You've been in the white world. So that's all you know. So it's basically, how do I deprogram myself?
Right. But what was, when you just said that made me, also that threw me off, and still trying to be like fair, was, didn't it mention about her like prepping to do a sermon or something? So it was like, wait, so she preached, became a pastor, like
a lot of flashes there.
And nothing about judge. Like, I just remember that talking about like her saying that, and it was just that kind of like, okay, so is she yearning and still like she preaching to, like, and that really threw me to, I was really on like, okay, this is all gotta make sense at some point, for real.
Exactly, at some point. Right now, this is not the point. We're at chapter 3. This is not the point. We're gonna get there.
Right.
Yeah, we're gonna get there. We hanging in there. We're hanging in there.
But I totally get what you were saying. I do. That's very relatable.
Well, I appreciate I wasn't on the ledge by myself. I
appreciate
that. Appreciate my safe space. Well, I appreciate you ladies, and I appreciate your time. I didn't know if anybody else wanted to chime in or anything. For all the listeners, appreciate you. And for some reason, the chat thing isn't working, so I got to figure that out to see why we're not seeing anything, because I think some other people are trying to tune in. But anyway, did any of you ladies want to say anything before we cut it close?
I want to ask a question before, because of how she, and I don't know why that's weighing on me, is the fact that she continues to minimize herself in order to fit in when she's so far above a lot of the people that she's probably been around and teaching.
That's a good
Have
question.
any of you felt the need to do that?
I don't know. I can honestly say probably. But I'm not sure if it stems from being in a place where you're the only one that looks like you. Like, because we keep going back to the doctor's upbringing, right? And Dartmouth College and everything and PWIs and like, remember when we were like, she's doing, not sermons, but she's doing like class talks and everything on
lectures and stuff,
right? Like at Cambridge and all this, and we were like, maybe it's not Howard, like it's not Tuskegee, it's not Tuskegee. So I'm not sure if, like you said in the beginning, Debbie, if these things are steeped within. She's the only chocolate chip and the cookie, and some things are subconscious.
Okay.
So
that's true, but that is kind of deep though, because I feel like when you asked that, it was like, yeah, and that's weird because it made me think like when you just said about you were taught to be confident, you were like, yes, that was my household. Like my mom is a very assertive woman, like very confident. But I do, now that you ask that and say that, think of times where, probably too many times, that I do remember of being, whether it was the workplace or even if it was like something in sports where I knew, like, of course I felt at that time like, yep, I had the best jumps at the time younger with cheer, but I wouldn't want to be the last person to know that, yes, or I would end up being, first. Or the same with work, where times where like I know, but I'll sit and wait for everybody else to give answers. I'm like, this not gonna work. So I don't know. That's true. Like maybe like Nene said, it is unconscious that you do it, or maybe it is something that, I don't know, just made me think of maybe that's there unhealed or something that really hadn't surfaced. But no, that's true.
That's a good point, D. That's a good point, Toya. Because I'm sorry. Y'all go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, that was it. Like what her saying that. Like it just made me think of like, yeah.
I guess it weighed in on me because I've always been told. I won't say always. I've been told a lot that I'm intimidating, and oh yeah, I get it all the time. But the second time the same person told me that, I literally had to tell them, it's not me, it's them. There's something within them that they need to deal with. I am who I am, and I will not minimize who I am as a person.
Right.
I also equating to what you were just saying, how she has to, constantly switch up to fit into, I guess, the she's in. That goes back to what I was pointing out with the chapters and the sub-chapter names. One sounds, seriousness. The other one sounds, like, did a doctor really write this?
Right. Exactly.
Or not even that. Are we still talking about a serious subject, or it's kind of like making jokes now? And keep in mind with the title, with some of these titles, wasn't nothing funny in the chapters.
Exactly. And that to me is again where you're minimizing yourself for what audience do you think is reading a book?
Yeah.
Man, wait, y'all came through in the end. I tell you what. Hold on. Okay.
Like you said, Nene, like you said, with the community. So if it is one woman, two women, 3, 4, 5 women that's out there that's the norm, or they feel that way, they operate that way, move that way, like that's real.
Yeah.
That's real.
Waiting on a chapter titled "You Jive Turkey."
Maybe we're going to really get the, because if what I'm hearing is correct, it's almost like we want to kind of like shake the doc and say, sis, do you know who you are? You know what I mean? Like,
and that's the problem. Sis don't know who she is.
Right. Which I guess makes her journey seem the way that we all viewing it, even in our own different ways, but still, you know, agreeing on certain things where it's like she's not even really sure of who she is, let alone now trying to find who God is to her, or this, you know, Black Madonna, or this. So that's real. Yeah.
Exactly.
Kind of reminds me when we see someone like some of these girls online or whatever, and they'll date this guy. The guy's like total trash. It's like, sis, do you know who you are? Like, why did you do this? Like, what's going through your head? Can you recognize like who you are, what you're bringing to the table? And I think that's a sliver of the journey. It sounds like that it's not so much as she's I hate to say she's not confident, but you know, it sounds like it's more it's different kind of journeys. Like it's multiple journeys.
It's multiple journeys. Yeah.
Well, we rooting for you, Dr. Chris. Like for real, because you Dr. Chris. Don't forget it.
Exactly.
Yes, ma'am. Well. Before I wrap it up, anybody else had anything that they wanted to put a pin in or go back over that we may have missed? Because I know we kind of went through that really quickly.
I mean, looking ahead to chapter 4,
the
first sentence says, "My buttocks began to quiver as soon as I spotted the shame in my dad's eye. So some lets me know. I'm hoping my expectations aren't getting too high. It seems like chapter 4 we start cooking with real high grease, okay?"
Girl, all right. You said something about buttocks. It made me nervous a little bit.
Yeah, I'm not gonna put my grease on the stove yet.
I'm like, my butt. What happened?
No. See, y'all stuck on the buttocks part.
I was stuck on buttocks.
Shame in my dad's eye.
Her dad's was shame of her for some reason.
Yeah.
So
yeah, for some reason that's what I'm looking at. See, y'all got your minds in the gutter.
You right.
Okay.
But you know, that brings up a thing. You right. I'm so sorry. I didn't interrupt you.
Back pockets. Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Well, you know,
the light. Smell the lavender. What Dr. Chris was explaining at the beginning of chapter 3. You see, I'm
eucalyptus. You tied it. You tied it. But now we get to know about the dad, because I've been wondering. The dad was
I'm just saying. I'm hoping that
I'm hoping now. Yeah.
Because you know how chill. Chapter be about 25 pages, but only 2 of them pages dedicated to her family, and then we only did like flash,
journey and with dreams.
Little flashbacks, and not even full flashback, just a flash. Can't even afford that. So I mean, you know what I'm saying? Like, I'm hoping chapter 4 is gonna give us, all right, let's figure this out. What's happening?
It's more tangibles. Well,
yeah.
Once again, I appreciate you, ladies. Y'all done brought it home. I thought this was gonna be 10 minutes, but y'all ended up bringing it home. All right. Well, thank you, everybody out there. Thank you for your time, and as always, we'll see you guys next Sunday. All right. Bye bye.
See you next week, ladies.
See ya.
Yeah.